Hey ladies, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 things that you can do starting today to help stop overeating and finally feel in control when it comes to your nutrition and your fitness journey. Now, all of these things are mistakes that I personally made when I was working through my relationship with food, and I felt like I would go from the extremes of restricting to overeating to tracking every little thing to saying screw it, I'll start over on Monday. And every time that I kept perpetuating that cycle, it would just worsen and worsen my body composition and my relationship with food. So once I finally realized that these things were really holding me back and that I had the power to take control of them, I did, and everything changed. My body composition, my relationship with food, my health, my digestion, my energy, everything. So I'm so excited to be able to talk about these, especially because I have a hunch that you're doing at least one of these probably without even realizing it. Let's just get right into tip number 1. The first mistake that I made that caused me to overeat was skipping breakfast. I did used to intermittent fasting because I thought that was the secret to be able to lose weight, but what it actually did was it made me low energy. I had cortisol spikes, I had blood sugar crashes, lots of cravings, and because I felt so restricted and hungry and deprived, my cravings were so much louder later in the day. It was really hard to ignore them, and it kind of set me up to overeat at night, especially because I thought, oh, I need to, hoard all my calories for later because I know I'm gonna binge later. Lo and behold, what I didn't realize is I was kind of just making sure it would happen. I was leaving all my food later, just in case I binge, meaning I was probably going to. I was mentally setting myself up for that to happen. So when I first realized I should probably start eating a little bit earlier in the day, I'm gonna be honest, it was a little hard to get myself to do that. So my advice to you, especially if you're like, I'm just not hungry, I don't like breakfast, I don't have time, start small. It could literally be just a protein shake. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. I would absolutely encourage that it is something with protein. Having at least 30 grams of protein to start your day is gonna be so important for keeping you full, for fueling your muscles, for helping with cravings. If you do not already know how important protein is, especially for us women as we age, to make sure we can protect our muscle mass, which is so important, I would encourage you, do a little deep dive, social media, ChatGPT, the internet, whatever is helpful. Go look and see why protein is so important. If you want a couple of high protein breakfast ideas that are super easy, go check out the description down below. There's a really old PDF that I made for my one-on-one coaching clients a couple years ago. Ton of high protein breakfast ideas in there. So within the first hour-ish of waking, if you can try to get in, it doesn't have to be this massive breakfast if you're not super hungry, but at least 30 grams of protein. It could be eggs, it could be a protein shake, it could be whatever floats your boat, protein oats, Greek yogurt and some fruit. So many options. It does not have to be this crazy big filling meal. You could have something that you can take on the go. If you start fueling your body at the beginning of the day, you're going to have a lot more stable energy levels and hunger levels. And if you do like intermittent fasting, if you do like having some specific cutoff times, I would encourage, instead of pushing it off till later in the day, cut off your eating time a little sooner at night. So start eating food in the morning, have some breakfast, especially because again, food is fuel. We need fuel to fuel your body and your brain to get through the day. We don't need an insane amount of fuel before we go to bed, and eating a bunch of food right before bed is actually gonna negatively impact your sleep and your digestion. Your body doesn't care to digest food while you're sleeping. It actually slows down digestion. So you could negatively impact your sleep quality. You could wake up just digestion not feeling as good because it's just kind of sitting there. A great rule is about 2 to 3 hours before you're about to go to bed. That should be when we cut off eating our food. Do you have to be so literal with that rule? Absolutely not, but it does help. So something that I encourage for a lot of clients and something that I personally did was I would have a, kind of kitchen is closed cutoff time, meaning, after 8 p.m., maybe I was no longer going to eat. I was satisfied. I made sure I got all the food that I needed for the day, and then my digestion had time to be able to process through what I had, so I was able to go to sleep and not have it affect. But even when I actually started eating breakfast and stopped pushing all my food off later into the day, I still really struggled with overeating because I was still doing this, and that was trying to make all of my meals or my snacks as low calorie as possible. Thinking again, I needed to save it up for later, or I was just trying to eat as little as I possibly could. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely did try to hit that magic number of 1,200 calories. I don't know where it came from. Absolutely too low for any adult. Very low calories. Your body needs and can run on a lot more if you get it more food. I would have all of my meals or my snacks trying to be as low calorie as possible. And of course it wasn't very filling. So maybe 30 minutes to an hour later, I barely had anything and I was thinking about food again. I would want to eat, I would want to snack, I would go to the pantry, grab a handful of nuts. Over the day, it really added up. It would put me over because I kept constantly eating throughout the day. Better strategy with this is to evenly space our food out. And instead of fearing higher calorie meals, thinking, oh my gosh, if I eat more calories now, I won't have more left over for later. Trust yourself that your body can use that energy and it can sustain you for the next 3 to 4 hours until it's time to be able to eat again. There's lots of different tools that we can utilize to make our meals feel more filling as well, because that was a really big fear of mine. I did not want to eat more calories and waste them and be very hungry later and not have more to be able to snack on. So it kind of put me in that perpetual cycle. So the way to get around that is to make our meals a lot more satisfying. Everything changed when I learned about what volume eating was. Volume eating is basically picking food that fills up more physical space just in your bowl or in your stomach. So if I have 100 calories worth of trail mix in this hand, it's gonna be really tiny. It's gonna just fit in the palm of my hand. If I have 100 calories worth of like veggies or berries or something like that, it would be very, very big. It would fill my hand a lot more. So this is gonna be a lot more satiating to me because I get more that I get to be able to eat and fill my stomach more. So volume eating is such an incredible tool. Protein is also very satiating, so every time I eat, I make sure I have enough protein, usually between 25 to 40 grams, but trying to evenly space our protein out is gonna be extremely helpful. Protein helps you stay fuller for longer. Healthy fats are also so helpful for helping you feel fuller for longer because fats actually slow digestion. So it's gonna take a little bit longer for your body to digest and break down and release and utilize the energy from your food, so we're not gonna have a big energy spike and then crash and then wanna eat again shortly after. Fiber is also really, really helpful because it takes longer to be able to break that down. So if we can have some volume, some protein, some fiber, some healthy fats, your meal, this could be a balanced meal, your meal is gonna help you stay way more satiated and satisfied for the next, again, 3 to 4 hours until it's time to be able to have another meal to fill your tank up again. But it really clicked for me when I started thinking of it like this. I thought of it as, like a nice car, right? And if I wanna go take a road trip, right? I wanna get through the next couple of hours or the day, whatever it was, I'm not gonna put like $2 of gas in my car. I'm gonna have to pull over again, put more gas in my car, go a little bit down the road, pull over again, put more gas in my car. It didn't really make sense. So instead of doing that, that's when I decided, let me actually try filling up my tank a little bit more. Let me have a little bit more of a higher calorie meal. Not crazy high calorie, but if I divided my daily calories into 4 or 5 times, being able to split it into there and not saving all of them for later, and I evenly spaced it, my digestion was better, my energy, my cravings, my hunger, my mood, all of that improved when I evenly spaced out my food for the day and focused on actual meals to satisfy me. Okay, the next thing that I realized was holding me back when it came to my relationship with food and causing me to overeat was I wasn't being very intentional, and I was just kind of eating without thinking, without ever actually learning about macros or what my body personally needs or what serving sizes actually truly look like. I was kind of just eating whatever I felt like, and I didn't really have any direct goals of what I was doing. If I wanted some goldfish, I would eat some goldfish. If I wanted a bunch of trail mix or I wanted some avocado toast or whatever it was. And a lot of times it was healthy foods, but I didn't actually understand how to put together a balanced meal, or if it was a snack, still a balanced snack, to keep me satiated and do what I needed that meal to do for those next couple of hours. So what I mean by that, when I say a balanced meal, it means it's gonna have a source of protein, carb, fat, and then ideally a fruit or vegetable to still get in the nutrients and the fiber and some volume to be able to help satisfy all those needs for your body for those next couple of hours, so it has the tools that it needs to give you the energy, the endurance, the focus, whatever it is that you're about to go do. This is honestly where learning about macros was super helpful for me, because I understood what is protein doing for my body, what are carbs, simple carbs versus complex carbs, what are fats doing for my body, maybe some healthier versions of fats, fruits and veggies help me feel a little bit more satiated. When I actually understood all those little things about nutrition, it helped me be way more intentional with what I chose to eat and fuel my body with. Because I was no longer eating just for the sake of eating. I was sometimes doing that, don't get me wrong. Like, food could just be fun and enjoyment, and like, I think that we shouldn't only think of food as like strictly just fuel, but it is fuel. That is the reason why humans eat. So instead of just kind of eating whatever without really thinking, having that intention behind that meal and the reasoning behind what I chose and the serving size I chose and how I paired those, that made the biggest difference in my meals, actually like really feeling like they satiated me, and I didn't feel like I needed to continue to eat again in the next like hour or two. Okay, this next one I really want to get into because I just know that it was something that I really struggle with, and I know that so many of us do too. And it's something that is so important and made such a big difference in not only helping create such a positive relationship with food for me now, but also with helping me stop overeating. And that is, I had to learn how to stop using food to cope with my emotions and cope with stress. Whether I was stressed from relationships or something with work or school, or maybe I was bored or sad or whatever was going on, I always would go to food first to be able to cope with it. And this is such a hard one because I'm just gonna be so honest. Food does make you feel better. That dopamine hit that you get from it, it kind of numbs out and it blocks out the stress or the negative emotions that are coming up for you in that moment. It feels good for those couple of minutes when you're eating, but the biggest thing that I had to come to terms with was my problem was never about the food. I was not stressed about food. I was not sad about food. I was not bored about food or lonely about food. You get what I'm trying to get at? So food wasn't gonna be the answer. Food was gonna be like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, but I was still gonna keep bleeding out every time I was sad or stressed or bored because I didn't know how else to cope with those emotions other than using the food, which temporarily gave me a fix, but it never actually fixed the problem. It never taught me how to actually cope with or resolve those issues. And it caused me additional issues with my digestion or my gut health or my weight or my relationship with food. And I'm not gonna lie, food does make you feel good for those couple of minutes. It makes you just forget all of the stress or the problems or emotions or whatever else is going on that we're like, I don't wanna face this. But that all comes crashing down either minutes later, hours later, or the next day. That feeling of, I knew that I did not honor my body in a way that I know that it deserves. And I wasn't actually hungry. I didn't actually resolve the stress or the emotion or things that was going on, and I deserve better. I deserve to feel good. I deserve to have a way to deal with the stress and make it go away. I deserve to have a way to deal with this sadness or this loneliness or this boredom and no longer deal with it anymore, to no longer put a Band-Aid over that bullet wound, to instead deal with that bullet wound so it's no longer there. I deserve that, and I continue to tell myself over and over because I'm not gonna lie, it's challenging, it's hard to be able to work through that. If you have conditioned your brain over years and years and years, that is the path that you go to be able to deal with your stress or to deal with your emotions. You've really ingrained that neural pathway. But the really cool thing is you can change that. You can create new neural pathways. So what was so helpful for me was getting so clear on why am I actually stressed? What's going on? What are those actual thoughts and feelings that I'm kind of suppressing with the food that I'm not wanting to deal with, or the sadness or whatever emotion was coming up, and I had to be able to face those. Now, you could do this yourself, you could journal. There are so many amazing therapists and coaches and people that are incredible at being able to help you work through those. So whatever level of support or guidance that you feel like you want, try whatever you feel like you are drawn to until you find what works, because I promise you, not only is your relationship with food going to improve if you feel like you were using that as a coping mechanism and overeating and it was affecting your health or your digestion or your body composition, that is going to improve. But honestly, your relationship with yourself and your confidence in yourself to be able to handle hard things and truly show up for you in such an incredible way, there is nothing like that feeling when you have those thoughts of wanting to turn to food and you can instead tell your brain, talk back to it and say, hey, I understand that you're reminding me of this pattern that I used to do. Thank you so much for trying to be helpful. That's what it's trying to do, is trying to remind you of patterns. It's trying to be helpful. I actually don't want to do that right now because that's actually not going to solve my problem. Totally encourage having some specific things that you can do. If every time I was sad or lonely or stressed, I would always reach for food, maybe I would instead take my phone, put on a podcast, and go for a walk outside, get some fresh air. Maybe I would go sit with a book. Maybe I would go do my laundry, do my chores. I would have a specific thing that I would go do, so when I would have those thoughts, it wasn't just me having this battle in my head of like, should I do it, should I not do it, should I do it, should I not do it? How do I get rid of the stress? How do I get rid of the boredom? How do I get rid of the anxiousness? I'd actually have a plan for what I could do. I had to really realize I actually had control over it. I can get back in the driver's seat. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Inside Out, where it's like the emotions in the head, and I like to kind of think of it like this. So there's like a little cockpit driver's seat, something going on in my head and my brain, and I'm the one that has the controls, and there's this other little voice, this little devil on your shoulder that's trying to get you to use food as that coping mechanism and remind you to do that, and it's sitting next to you and it's trying to like reach over and grab the buttons and get you to use your arms, get the food and do all the things, and you get to tell it, hey, I'm actually in the driver's seat right now. You can sit there, you can be there, that's fine, but you have to shut up. You can't touch the radio, you can't touch the controls, you just sit there. That's all you get to do. I am in control. And that really helped me take it outside of myself and be able to think, okay, it's fine that I have these thoughts. That's normal. I don't have to act on them though. They can be there and I can still do something different that when I think about it, feels a lot more aligned with the woman that I know that I want to be and show up for myself. It helped me realize that the only person that truly has power is me. And I was actually letting it take over and make those decisions that I no longer wanted it to be able to make. So what I did was took that power back and then implemented a different strategy. I had a specific thing or a couple of things that I could choose to do when those thoughts came up if I felt like sitting with them was just too much and I needed to go do something else to get my brain active and get it off of thinking of that food and actually resolve and work through whatever the stress or emotion was. And also, again, just to be so real, it's not like I was like clicking my heels, jumping to go do the thing. It was hard. It's not like just one day I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go for a walk whenever I feel stressed and it's gonna all be gone, or I'm just gonna go do whatever and I'll be totally fine. Like, that's not the case. And I still had those thoughts, and I still sometimes have those thoughts, but because I got myself to go do those things, and I would tell myself, you deserve better. You've done so many hard things in life, you can do this. Coaching myself through it, it now feels so much easier for when those thoughts come up. Now, most of the time when the stress or those emotions come up, my knee-jerk reaction isn't to reach for food, because I have spent so much time disassociating those two things from each other, where I don't think, oh, I'm stressed, food is my coping mechanism, food is gonna fix it, because I spent so much time breaking that bond. And every single time that I chose me, that I chose to take my power back, that I chose to put myself in the driver's seat and tell it to shut up and don't touch any of the controls, that made it easier and broke it down little by little until I got to this point where, again, sometimes I do have that thought to use food, but it's so much easier for me to be able to reason with myself right away and catch myself and say, Lainey, you are okay. Take a deep breath. Let's go do XYZ. Let's go talk to somebody. Let's go do the thing. Let's go move your body. Let's go remove yourself from the situation. Let's go face this head on. And it gave me so much confidence to be able to handle those situations now. So not only did it help my relationship with food and my body composition, but it also just helped with my relationship and my trust in myself. Okay, this last one is so huge, and I just want to squash this for as many people as possible, and it's getting rid of that all or nothing mindset, that I'll start over on Monday, or I'll start over tomorrow, or oh, the weekend is ruined, we gotta wait till the next week. That is not the case. That is terrible thinking, because if we keep doing that, what that's doing is telling us we have to be absolutely perfect or nothing matters. And I don't know if you know this or not, but perfection doesn't exist. We create it in our minds. We are human. We are imperfect creatures. There's no way to be perfect. And I'm going to be honest, you don't have to be perfect. The people that you see with these great, fit, healthy, toned bodies, they're not perfect either. They are humans. They have times where they go off plan, where they have some treats, where they go out to eat, and they do that. But they don't let that define them and throw them off track. They just say, hey, that was just a meal. Maybe I had something I wouldn't usually have. Maybe I had a little bit more than I usually would. But that's okay. It didn't ruin anything. I can just make the next best decision. Maybe if I went a little bit overboard on the snacks, I say, hey, let me just at least hit my water goal for today. Or let me make sure I go for a little bit of a walk, get some fresh air, get up to some movement for my body today. Maybe I make sure I get a good night's sleep, or I pre-log my food for tomorrow to make sure I hit my protein goal. There are so many next best choices that you can make, so you just get yourself right back on track. Because the thing is, I like to think of it like this. Your fitness journey is like this big staircase. Just gonna keep going, because we're on a fitness journey. This is your lifestyle by now. It's not like you're gonna reach your goal and be like, I'm going back to my old habits. You're gonna go back to your old body composition and health state. We probably don't want that. We want this new body, we want to stay there. So we're creating this new identity and new habits and new lifestyle. So we kind of pick up new things and we learn new things as we go on this stairway, and it's a never-ending stairway. And at some point, we're gonna have a time where we maybe miss a step, or maybe we fall backwards a little bit. That's totally normal. That's just life. That's what happens. Things knock you down, put you off track. We don't have full control over everything. We just do what we can and control our controllables in the situation that we're in. But that all or nothing mindset, that, oh, I'll start over Monday, and then the self-sabotage that comes from that, that's like you saying, oh, I missed a step going up. I'm going to launch myself down the entire staircase. Why would you do that? If your goal is to keep going up and you miss one step, why would you not just like, oh, let me just try again. Let me just put my other foot forward. Next foot forward, I'm going to take that next step and I'm fine. Instead of throwing ourselves completely down and trying to ruin all of the progress that we just made. Makes no sense when we think of it like that, right? That's the visual. I'm very big on visuals. That's the visual that I always had in my head. If I would have that thought, I'd say, I am not throwing myself down that staircase. What's the next thing that I can do that I can take one step forward that's going to move me toward that goal of having the muscle that I want, or the energy, or the good digestion, or whatever it is? What's the next best decision that I can make that's going to help me stay on track? Because truthfully, you're never actually off track until you just truly decide not to, right? It's okay to have a misstep. It's okay to not be perfect. Again, Perfection doesn't exist, so don't even try to be perfect. Try to be consistent. Consistency is not perfection, right? People always talk about consistency, but they think consistency equals perfection. They are not the same thing. And I think the other thing to include here is there's so much emotion that I think comes into this, is like we make a choice and we think, oh, I'm bad, or I messed up, and we get all of these emotions like built up in this. And the big problem with that is it is literally just all or nothing. There is no balance, there's no sustainability, there's no making this an actual lifestyle. Because again, if you want to be able to not only reach but maintain your results, you have to make it a lifestyle. And having to go so hard to make up and then, go off track and start over Monday and restrict again and then go back off track and perpetuate that yo-yo swing, that to me does not feel sustainable. At some point, I'm going to be like, I'm just done. I quit. I am not going to keep doing this to myself. Again, we stop for a while and then we start over. So the way to halt that in its tracks and say, I'm going to be someone that has a lifestyle, that has an identity, I identify as someone who takes care of my body, who is healthy, who is fit, who shows up for themselves, I have to be able to make this a lifestyle. And my lifestyle is not just, Monday through Friday and the weekends are like throwing it out the window and then start over again. It is all the time. It's the weekend is still just another day. Today, what is one thing that you can do if you feel like you did something that took you off track? What's one thing that you can do to just put your foot right back in the track, right to that next step? Doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be something so small, but what it's symbolizing is huge. It's symbolizing that you are telling yourself, I don't need to be perfect, and I can still continue to be consistent, and I can still continue to show up for myself, even when it feels hard, even when those thoughts are trying to say, you ruined it. You did not ruin it. The only way to ruin it, the only way to fail, is to straight up stop. And if you don't stop and you just pick one action to keep going, you win. So honestly, I just had to stop punishing myself for being a human, for being imperfect, for having feelings, for having slip-ups, for wanting to have a little bit of a treat and accidentally eating a little bit more than I thought I would, for wanting to have a little bit of a dessert with my fiance at the end of the day. And I had to be able to come to terms and realize that's normal and that's good and that's balance. That's me being able to be on my fitness journey and take care of my goals and take care of myself, but also not restrict myself so much that I feel like I can't enjoy life too. I had to realize that one bad choice, and I don't even like the words good or bad. I usually use the words aligned or misaligned because they're not inherently good and they're not inherently bad. There's so much context that goes into it. Instead, you make a decision that is aligned with who you say you are and want to be in your goals, or one that's not aligned. And we are going to sometimes make some misaligned decisions, and that's okay and that's normal, and again, that's just part of being human, but we need to stop beating ourselves up over this. That doesn't make you bad. You shouldn't feel guilty for it. You didn't do anything wrong by anybody, maybe just yourself for making something that wasn't aligned, but again, you're human, it's okay. So all you have to do is, again, have that conversation with yourself or with somebody else if that helps you be able to process through it and be able to say, okay, so if that wasn't an aligned decision, if I'm in that situation again the next time, what decision could I make that is a little bit more aligned? Maybe I still have the chips and guac at the restaurant, but I only have a little bit, so I'm not so full, and then go eat my meal and go home and feel super stuffed, right? Maybe instead of eating the whole pizza, I have 2 slices. Maybe instead of going to the function absolutely starving and eating everything in sight, maybe I have a little bit of a snack or a meal beforehand so I'm not so starving and I can have a little bit better portion control and be a little bit more in tune with my hunger and satiety cues. All you have to do is decide what is that next aligned decision that you could make if you're in a similar situation, and leave it at that and give yourself grace. So every time I would tell myself, okay, it's not about later, it's not about tomorrow, it's not about starting over, it's about what's the next best choice that I could make right now. I stopped starting over. Every single time I did that, it made it a little bit easier. And it also helped me not feel so restricted that I needed to use food to be able to make up for that. And that was the most freeing feeling ever, because I stopped letting food control me. I now have a very healthy understanding of its purpose, so I can enjoy it, so I can fuel my body properly, so I can know what my body personally needs and make sure that I can give it to that in a way that also still tastes really good and is in alignment with my goals. And this is the stuff that really changed the game for me. And because it changed the game in my relationship with food, my body composition changed with it. Now I want to leave you with this. Remember that you are the one that is in control. You have the power. If you don't feel like you do, I need you to step back in the driver's seat and remind yourself that you are in control. You're in control of your actions. You're in control of what you choose to do, what you choose to eat, what the next decision that you make is. You're in control of if you decide to beat yourself up over it. You're in control if you decide to give yourself some grace and give yourself that support to be able to work through it. Hope that this video helped give you some ideas, some inspiration, some hope, whatever it is that you need to be able to help implement these things in your life and create a healthy relationship with food so you can really honor your body, enjoy seeing progress in your fitness journey, enjoy taking care of your body, and yes, enjoy some good food too. I would love to hear if there's anything else that you found to be really helpful in the comments below. Help share that information with as many people as possible. Help support all the other women here. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and I will see you guys next time.